Hey everyone, welcome back to the Lookout. As you know, we cover wildfire, water resources, forestry, rural culture, and it's pretty hard to avoid politics. There's a political aspect to all these things. So we feel like we've got a needle that we got to thread here with politics. We know that our viewers are all across the political spectrum. That's something we like, is that we work on issues like fire and water that have a broad appeal, and so we try not to get too political on here, but we're doing a story today. This is an interview with a friend of mine, Tanya Torst, who I've known for a long time, who's been laid off by the Forest Service as part of the big reductions in force, and this is her story. I've been working as a contractor for the feds for about 20 years. In college, I worked on a Forest Service crew. And so I know, firsthand that there's a lot of room for improvement in how government functions. I don't think anyone would accuse the Forest Service of being a high-functioning organization, except during fire season. But in my opinion, the problem isn't the employees for the most part. My problems I've had with dealing with the Forest Service during my career as a contractor have been with the systems, the IT systems, the contracting systems, the environmental review process. There's a lot of kind of bureaucratic weight that makes it hard for them to get anything done when it comes to managing the forest. So I think there's a lot of opportunity to improve how the Forest Service functions. But in my opinion, getting rid of the dedicated and smart people that work there already, who know the terrain, that have dedicated their lives to managing natural resources, that's crazy. These aren't jobs, these aren't jobs that can be done by AI, a lot of them. People build connection to a landscape that they work in, and they build connections to the community that they serve. And that's, it's hard to replace. So right now, a lot of folks who've worked a long time for the Forest Service are being treated as kind of disposable, and people are bad-mouthing government employees and saying that, they're leeches and parasites and all this other stuff that I disagree with. So here's Tanya's story. We're turning off comments. We're going to turn off comments in general for a lot of our things that have more of a political aim, because we don't feel like anyone really gains from talking politics in a comment section. Hope you enjoy it. I appreciate Tanya coming and talking to us. And if you're a Fed that's been fired, know that there's a lot of folks that you've worked with that are unhappy about it. And we hope that everything comes out the other side. We hope that things improve. We hope that efficiencies are achieved, but we don't really like the way it's unfolding right now. So thanks for watching this. Hi, Tanya.
Hey.
Welcome to the Lookout.
Thanks. I'm a long-time listener, first-time caller.
All right. Well, I'm glad you called in. So I wanted to talk to you about your job that you've been doing for the Forest Service, and what the job was, and about how you've been unceremoniously sacked here in the last couple of weeks, and just get kind of some of your thoughts on the work you've been doing, and what you think people in the greater public should know about conditions within the Forest Service right now.
Yeah, those are great questions. So I was the North Zone Partnership Coordinator for Region 5. That meant I worked with 6 different forests: Mendocino, Modoc, Lassen, Shasta Trinity, 6 Rivers, Klamath. I think I may have missed one. So I work with 6 different forests. And you might ask, what is a partnership coordinator? And everyone asks that. But what we do is we help create partnerships to leverage the limited resources the forests have. And when I say limited resources, one forest, for example, has only got like $600,000 last year for their dollars, yes, to manage 1 million acres. So every forest needs to find ways to get money and bring it in, and as a partnership coordinator, I meet with partners, I put together agreements, I do help on the technical aspect of all the agreements. And all these things are approved by the actual acts to do it are approved by Congress. So we just can't do anything. It has to be something that Congress previously approved. So what I would do, I'd meet with different partners, I'd create relationships. That's my strong point. Also, I'm good with spreadsheets, so I do both of that. And then I would go in and help put together these agreements to get work done.
So who are some of the partners that you would work with?
Yes, so it's Mule Deer Foundation is a big partner. I know in my zone we do a lot with also Trout Unlimited. California Deer Association has been a big partner. So has Patriot Restoration Ops, and they're a nonprofit that helps teach veterans how to do these fuel works, and they've done a lot of great things for the forest. There's many other ones. Right now, Sierra Pacific is a top partner for the Region 5 and Region 6, which is the west coast of the United States.
Okay, so they're a major logging timberland owner and mill operator.
Yeah, they are. And I heard before this freeze happened and all work stopped and everything stopped, they have like 75 million to do work in California and Oregon and Washington.
On their lands?
No, on forest lands and their lands, both, but yeah.
Okay, so and then they get paid in logs, or like how does that work?
No, they actually get paid to do the work. So one of the things I did do many of are stewardship agreements. And stewardship agreements, it's an authority where anytime something's taken off the land, we have to use it because people just can't take something off the land. It has to be recorded and paid for. So yes, in some cases, the SPI agreements will be, have logs in, if it's been approved, they can do that. But a lot of the ones I did are just straight biomass, which is super inexpensive. It's like, this supposedly is supposed to be 10 cents per ton.
Okay.
But I'm seeing stewardship agreements with 1 cent a ton.
Okay. So basically you're paying them to haul off small trees and other material that's not like something you could sell for lumber.
Yeah.
To reduce
Absolutely.
the fire hazard.
Pretty much. And almost all of my work has been to reduce fire hazard. One of the big partnerships was the one at Mule Deer around Bernie. It's the Crossroads project, and that was 2.2 million, and it's all mastication. And stop me if I'm saying something you want me to.
So mastication is like grinding up brush.
Grinding up brush, small diameter trees, to clean the forest to prevent ladder fuels.
Okay. So how did that meet objectives of the the Mule Deer Foundation? Like what do they like about mastication?
Yes. So what it does is it makes great deer habitat. So when you cut the brush down, anything that regrows is really tasty to deer.
Okay.
So and Mule Deer is a phenomenal partner, and they use the cool thing about them is they use the local folks. They don't charge very much to do the work. To manage it, and they have local timber folks. They have logging companies. They're the ones that are doing this work. So I'm really terrified. I say terrified. I'm more terrified about the fire danger, but I have a lot of fear for the timber industry in our area unless this administration lets us do our work, and they're not letting us. They stopped everything.
Okay. So can you tell me a bit about when the Forest Service started to really rely heavily on partners?
This has been something in the past 4 or 5 years. I was part of a big hiring push, and I got hired in 2023 to bring partnership coordinators to help with the wildfire crisis landscapes. And those are big areas where a lot of money is going to stop the fire risk. And I know it's been since 2020 that this started. I'm not an
Yeah.
expert on that, so
Uh-huh.
we could look it up later, but
Right. So,
yeah.
so as the Forest Service has less capability,
Oh yeah.
overall, they're relying more on partners to get the work done.
We can't do it ourselves. We just don't have the bodies.
So, what are some of the reasons the Forest Service has like lost so much capacity? Why is it so hard for them to get work done?
Yeah, that's a good question. Part of it is because Congress does not give them enough money to hire and to even pay our people. Last year, because of the continuing resolution, last fiscal year 24, it was very it was a big struggle. We had to stop any expenses. We couldn't do travel to do our work done. I'm not talking about fun travel. I'm talking about travel to get work done. We just couldn't pay our own bills. And with the continuing resolution of this year, we couldn't even buy toilet paper. I mean, it's ridiculous. And, we're talking about forest supervisors and everyone's like, well, looks like, office folks are going to be doing cleaning toilets, and that's okay. You know what? I think all of us are fine with doing that. We don't have an issue with that. I was on a call with one of the forests, and the question was, how do we keep track of everything when we have 4 to 5 different jobs to do? One person is doing the work of 4 to 5 people, or trying to. They're honestly, some of them are not getting paid overtime. No one's getting paid overtime. It's like, it's so hard to get anything done. And then I'm gonna just bring it up, NEPA is challenging. And I think a lot of, especially
So you're talking about the National Environmental Policy Act.
Yes, and I am not an expert. I can refer you to some, but one thing I do know is it takes a lot of work and a lot of time to get things done.
Right.
And that's something that I was hoping, and we were all hoping, that we could help streamline that.
Right. And the Mendocino's been working on like this programmatic EIR for the entire forest for like a decade?
Yeah, and we signed it last year.
So you've got all this environmental hurdles cleared, but now you're getting shut down right when it's time to actually do the work?
Yeah, and all that money, like I said before, I brought in 11.9 million just to Mendocino for area work on the upper tomes, and a lot of that is to protect Crane Mills timberland, which is a small industrial timberland, because they've stopped all work. We can't do anything, and that's like just in limbo. Everything's in limbo. So, yeah. Oh, not to mention, I have to share one more thing that's being stopped. And I am not the expert on this either, but there is a halt on all contracting, all purchasing. Like Shasta Trinity invested $2 million on reforestation in the Mount Shasta Ranger District. That's been stopped, and they have seedlings that they need to plant, and they're pretty much going to rot, because at this point there's no way, because of the stop, they can't go and get the contract work to put it in the ground. So that's major reforestation that's going to stop, and that's going to hurt future timber.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to put everything back 2 years.
So, I hear some people saying like, hey, this is just a temporary pause to figure out like where we're wasting money, everything else. What do you think is the strategy? Like, why do you think that all this is happening?
I do not know, and I should not speculate, but that's a big but. And I probably shouldn't say this, but it feels like they're trying to crush the whole system to rebuild it. I have a master's degree in organizational leadership. I also have an MBA. I graduated top of my class, and I study some systems. And it really looks like they're trying to break everything and build it the way they want to. Systems don't always work like that. I mean, they've done a good job of stopping the systems to protect employees like me, or they're trying to stop it, but usually systems bounce back. So I really, they're going at it the wrong way. As someone who used to work in consulting and used to be able to go in and show like the way to work around this problem and stop the bureaucracy, they're doing it all wrong. they're doing it with the purpose of let's terrorize the Forest Service employees with these emails, pretty much saying, I'm paraphrasing, but get a real job, right? You're not worth anything. Tell me 5 things you did last week that so we can, decide whether or not to fire you. Oh, and if you're on vacation, if you're sick, you're going to get fired. That's kind of what these emails are sending out. They're all poorly written. They're like, I don't know what they're trying to terrorize us for whatever reason. And I was listening to some policy folks from Washington last year. They were saying, concerns for the Forest Service if this administration came in, that this administration has it out for the Forest Service, that Congress has it out for the Forest Service because we're not doing the things they want to do. They won't give us the money to do what they want to do, but they're still holding us to that level. And I get it, like we should be performing, right? But you can't take away all our tools, take away all our people, put laws in to make it so we can't do our work.
And hurt your partners.
And hurt our partners.
That you've spent all this time building the trust with.
Trout Unlimited, Mule Deer, Props, everyone is going to have to lay off people. Plus all the local timber folks in the North State.
Yeah.
Because they do our work. They do a good job too.
Yeah. So have you been talking much with your partners?
No. I mean, before this, absolutely. I talked to them all the time, and they were very upset. So part of there's a stop in anything with the
Infrastructure.
IJA, yeah.
Yeah.
Infrastructure. It was formerly known as the Bipartisan. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bipartisan Infrastructure something act.
Yeah. Where's my cheat sheet? I don't know. Anyway, they formerly was part of that. Coming into this administration, everyone thought there should be no problem with that going forward. There's like 6 or 7 million stewardship agreement that I was working on.
$6 or $7 million project.
Yeah, there were 4 projects over 3 forests, and that is completely stopped. And because of that, I know Mule Deer will have to lay off people as of now. I'm sure they're laying off people now. They're project managers.
So if it was your job to kind of reform the Forest Service,
yes,
try to make them more productive.
Oh yeah.
Where would you start?
Ooh, okay. We need to streamline NEPA, which is National Environmental Protection Act, and I do get that is most likely what the new administration wants to do, but it just needs to be streamlined because there's so much work that goes into getting stuff done and
getting stuff planned, not actually done, right?
Yeah, well, it's the planning that does it, but we can't do anything until the planning is finished.
Right.
So we need to streamline that. That would be the top thing, I would think. That's been the biggest issue I've seen. And to be fair, like the process is a good process in a lot of ways. I mean, we get people who are interested in protecting species. They're very involved with it, and they want to make sure different species are protected. I think this is not my idea, but I've heard, and I think it's a good idea. Like instead of focusing on protecting one species, we need to look at the whole ecosystem to protect it. Right. Because there's ways that we could do thinning and forestry and timber while still protecting. Right. It is not like, and the whole idea of like, we just need to not touch anything is...
Well, we see how that's panned out.
We see how that's panned out, and it's an insult to every Native American tribe in this area.
So Native tribes were very active in management. So when you're saying that it's an insult to Native tribes to say that hands-off management is the way to go, you're saying that disregards thousands of years of Native American knowledge?
Exactly. Sorry, you just said that better than I did. I haven't been practicing that. I'm just like, I just get mad and think about it. Yeah, absolutely. And so we need to bring good management back, and the Forest Service has learned. They're doing all this, they've done all this research through the research stations. They know, they're learning what to do. They're learning from Native Americans and indigenous people. I mean, we were working with tribes to put together like native seed banks and look at different ways to do things. So we're learning. And it seems like some environmentalists, not all, but some of them are still suing for as soon as to do anything. Like, we're seeing that
Well,
quite
it
a
seems
bit.
like some of the major, seems like some of the people that have been suing the Forest Service forever don't,
Yeah.
they don't take traditional ecological knowledge seriously.
They don't. No. It's. I hate to say the R word, but if I think about it too much, it makes me wonder if it's dismissing Native American.
Right. Well, I'll say it for you. Like,
Yeah.
mainstream environmentalism has been super racist, right?
my
Like,
gosh.
since the very beginning, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
John Muir was like total racist.
Yeah. We see. The tribal crews get singled out by environmental groups. I've seen that. An environmentalist will call the police on a native person doing work saying, oh, they must be on drugs. They're not on drugs. They just worked 16 hours, right? They're exhausted. And people will, folks will get arrested. There's so much harassment of indigenous folks in this area. I never would have believed it until, because I didn't hear about it, but until I moved up here, I didn't realize how bad it is in Northern California and this area.
So tell me more about that. Like, what do you...
Oh, just, personally, as soon as I moved to Chico, not being served, getting stink eye, everyone assuming I'm native. I am native, but not from here. I see a lot of racism toward Native American folks, a lot of harassment. Yeah.
So, let's talk about DEI then, and
Yeah.
tribal engagement. Like, it seems like so much of what's happening right now is just like
Backlash.
full on white power, like white nationalism.
gosh.
And so,
Yeah.
what do you feel like this emphasis on DEI is just this extension of kind of like
Yeah.
white nationalism?
Oh, absolutely. And also, first off, people are confusing it with affirmative action. Affirmative action is when you bring people in for a quota or something, and I'm not a DEI expert, but DEI in the Forest Service and in the government is not like that. The only preference DEI brings is to veterans and to folks with disability like me. So, and even with that preferential hiring I got, I still had to compete. And if I wasn't qualified, I wouldn't have got it. It just made it easier for them to hire me as opposed to somebody. It just put me on the same ground as someone who's already in the Forest Service. I still had to interview. I still had to prove what I did. I still have 3 degrees. It's not like I'm a pity hire or anything.
Right.
So, yeah, it just makes it easier. Also, what DEI does, at least in the Forest Service, it just opens things up. So we share jobs with people of color. And we open up the forests, make sure that they're allowed to come in too, because a lot of times, I've been working fires and I see, white supremacists there, hunting with weapons. It's a little scary. And I know they're white supremacists because I recognize their stickers, on their hunting jeeps. And so, yeah. It's, DEI is a good thing. Diversity is always a good thing when you look at organizations. If you have everyone that looks exactly the same and thinks exactly the same, you're not going to get anything new. You need to have new blood, new opinions. You need to have good, different upbringings. I mean, one of the reasons I've been so successful in my job, because I've gotten several raises. I've gotten 5 different cash awards strictly for performance, plus I won the USDA Tribal Engagement Award. One of the reasons I got those is because I come from a diverse background, right? I come from a business background, which is so different from everyone else. So business, organizational leadership, I can use my tools that I got, my diversity, to cut through the red tape to get these things done. And that's something that if you've been in the Forest Service your whole life, it's a little harder because you're in the system and you don't know how to make the changes.
All right.
Yeah, so DEI is a phenomenal thing, and anyone that has a opinion against it, come talk to me, because I'll show you so many different reasons why. So, yeah. And then tribal engagement. Oh,
Yeah, let's talk about tribal engagement. So,
I love working. I'm representing my tribes around the valley right here.
So tribal engagement. So is tribal engagement then being targeted as being some sort of DEI thing?
I suspect it is, because I was about to teach a class on working with tribes, and all the tribal stuff in the USDA got ag learns most of it got taken away.
Okay, so they took the stuff off their class offerings online?
They took off a lot of stuff offline.
Related to engaging tribes?
Yeah.
So let's talk about, so I work a lot in the past I've worked a lot on the Klamath and on the Six Rivers and these places that like are unceded territory of the Karuk people.
Yes. Love them, by the way. They're doing a lot of good things.
Yeah,
They're
they
doing
are.
amazing things.
And their programs are being shut down right now because they had funding from the Infrastructure Act. But talk about, I think what strikes me when I talk to folks up there is like that they have a science system that we call traditional ecological knowledge that's based on like thousands of years of experimentation.
Yeah.
And so talk about how like TEK, traditional ecological knowledge, kind of well, just talk about that. Like, I don't even know where to start with talking about tribal engagement.
So TEK, or ITEK, Indigenous Traditional Ecological Knowledge, I'm not an expert in it. Like, if you want to talk to an expert, Ali Metters-Knight is a great expert. We have Tom Campbell. We have a lot of folks who are really good at that. I believe Lake. We have a lot of, is it Frank Lake?
Frank Lake, yeah.
Yes. And we have a bunch of folks who know that better than I do. I just pick up a little bit here and there, and I want it to grow because it's a way to help the forest, with burnings and, or excuse me, not burnings, but prescribed fire and ways to have less impact to have a healthy forest. My job as a partnership coordinator is not actually with TEK, but I work with tribes. So I helped, for example, Redding Rancheria. I helped them put together a master stewardship agreement and a stewardship supplemental agreement to do work in their tribal area.
So they could work on national forest lands?
Yes, yeah. Forest lands in their heritage area. I'm sorry, I cannot.
Aboriginal territory?
Yes, Aboriginal territory, yeah. And these territories are much larger than like whatever their property is.
Right.
I mean, part of the issue, like Paskenta Band of Nomlaki runs, they have area all the way up the forest, Mendocino. So they have different areas. They may have been seated here on the valley floor during the winters while they, for millennia. But, those were their hunting grounds in the mountains, and that's how it is for a lot of the tribes in California. But for me, what I did is I worked with tribes. I worked with, first thing, tribes is not supposed to be DEI. Tribes are sovereign nations, and there is very specific Indian law. There's treaty law that applies to them. That being said, a lot of the treaties that were put in place in the 1860s were never ratified and were torn up. But it doesn't matter. They're indigenous sovereign nations. So because of that, they're treated differently. So I can't just go talk to tribal council. We have to go through the line officers, and it has to be nation to nation. It is not like me going, hey, what's up? Let's talk about this. I mean, I can talk to them casually, but we can't go and do that. So it's very specific. Now, what I did is there's something called the Nome Colt Walk, and that's a 100-mile walk. It's also known as the Concow Trail of Tears. And what happened is 470 Native Americans here in Chico were rounded up and forced march over 100 miles up over Mendocino National Forest into Covelo, and like 270 of them survived. That's it. Everyone else died and didn't make it. And every year, several different tribes come together and they walk that. And it's an amazing thing. It brings healing to everybody. And I was able to bring the forest into that. So last year, we had patrol teams with the firefighters help us direct traffic, and it was an incredibly healing experience for both the tribes and then the descendants of the settlers who drove the people off originally. So it's really an amazing thing. Because of that, I won the 2024 USDA Tribal Engagement Award with the forest. I helped drive this. So this was a big part of what I did, and I loved it. And we have nation to nation, and then we have people to people. And because not every tribal member is going to be on the council, so it's bringing local people and having them meet Forest Service. So Forest Service folks open their eyes to these people are still here, and these people have survived. So that's something I love doing. I just love working with tribes.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, they're amazing. And we work with Ali, we work with Machupta, we've worked a lot with Piscenta Band of Namlaki Indians, Round Valley, Robinson Rancheria. One more thing I wanted to bring up too.
Anything you want to talk about, right?
Okay. Yeah. So the other thing that's going on, and maybe it's just paused, but they're taking back all the community wildfire defense grants.
Yeah, that affects the work I do. Like we have 4 different projects right now that are funded by that, and 3 of them are frozen.
It is ridiculous. This is really hurting the local people, the people in rural areas. Right now, one of the partners of the forest was working to protect the town of Upper Lake. That's been stopped, right? That is a bad area if there's fire. You know better than me. Your work's been stopped. They're stopping Plumas. Every forest, they're stopping all this work. And honestly, it really feels like they're trying to break the system, like I said before. Yeah. Oh, and then the work in Bernie, I mentioned before, we had $2.2 million that Mule Deer was working on. It was IRA funds. That's been stopped. And the town of Bernie is it's close to my heart. Oops, I shouldn't hit my microphone, but they're an amazing town and good people, and we need to get that work done. We need to protect them.
Yeah.
In every town we need to protect.
Well, it's hard, I think, because so much of this work is work that it should just be like locals going out with chainsaws and cutting firewood, and it's like we've made it so complicated.
Yeah.
Where you have to, survey for rare beetles before you cut down a lodgepole or something, and it's hard to see. I look at a lot of the Fire Safe Council work and other work that gets done, and it's hard to imagine a more inefficient process than giving out grants and doing all this regulatory work. And it's hard to see how, unless we really radically reform the way that this work gets done, how it will ever be sustainable.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. Again, I think if they look at the whole forest ecosystem and not one specific species specific, that will help. Yeah, but unfortunately, at the other hand, like it would be great if local people could just go cut, stuff for firewood. But we also have seen so many times where people have done that and knocked down a 300-year-old oak tree with their truck and come back. Oh, I'm gonna get it. It's yeah. People, we have to have a balance, right? We don't want to be overly regulated. We don't want to. We don't want it. And I gotta say, believe it or not, I'm a libertarian at heart. Like, I believe in free market, and I believe in, at the same time, I believe in mutual aid. I believe in us helping each other, and we need to create the systems where it works well, and we don't have that now. I can tell you, I am concerned about the new administration. I know they're using the Project 2025 playbook. I didn't know very much about it. I heard about it, but there's different trackers now that shows everything they do and what page in the playbook of 2025 it's related to, and it scared me. So when I looked up the Forest Service and that, they are looking at streamlining NEPA. I think that would be a really good thing.
Yeah, I feel like disruption is needed. It's just that these guys are doing it in a really sloppy way.
I think maybe, and a lot of stuff about 2025 I absolutely do not agree with. If they were to do that in a good way, that would be great. They're not doing that. They're trying to, the weird thing I heard is they're wanting people to do polygraph tests for loyalty to the President Trump. That has nothing to do with what we're doing. It has nothing to do with the oath to the Constitution we took, and we take that very seriously. So, if you're going to hire people based on the loyalty to a person and not our Constitution and not to our people, something's wrong there. That's not going to help us. Yeah, I think it's about ego and not about really the forests.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the problems too is just that these systems, as you know, are so complicated.
Yeah.
And especially like the timber industry, like no one's going to build a new sawmill based on like what Trump says today. Like people need like a 30-year guarantee of hey, the Forest Service is going to be stable for 30 years for us to cut logs in there before they're going to go build a mill. And so there's so many of these things move so much slower.
Yeah.
And they could privatize all the forests tomorrow. The timber industry isn't even asking them to do that.
No. And it's funny because we talk to the timber industry every year on the forest. They come and talk to us, and we talk to them. We listen to what they need, and we try to do everything we can to help them within our power. And I say that like we're not going to do anything illegal, go against NEPA or laws, but they're our constituents. We want them to do well. We're in this together. So they say, well, we need more sales. We need to be able to go in and get more timber, and yes, that's true. But we'll go and put things for sale, and they won't bid on it. And I get it because they have other forces, they have market forces to worry about. But there's got to be a way that we can come together, that we don't destroy old growth forests, that we can keep the ecosystems, have a healthy forest, have them happy and us happy. It doesn't have to be one or the other. It's not a zero-sum game, right? We can both figure out a way to do this. So, yeah, that's my opinion.
Yeah. Well, yeah, screwing over the partners seems like, it's just not good business.
It is not, and it breaks my heart because I know these folks, they're good people. And just so you know, I'm not partisan, but I know most of the people in this area, the people that are going to be affected tend to be more red-leaning. They're more conservative. They're more Republicans.
Yeah.
And they're the ones that are going to be hurt more than folks in the cities. So it really breaks my heart. And I think, and with me being let go, like I was fired unceremoniously, it called on a Saturday by my force supervisor. I was sobbing on the phone. I had the worst panic attack. We thought I had to go to the hospital because I was so devastated. And I'm not just devastated because of me. I'm devastated for everybody. And we were both here for the campfire. And I watched flames from my porch. And I heard people calling, thinking they're gonna die, and cars on fire going down, and that horrific thing that happened. I'm gonna do everything I can so that never happens again. Mm-hmm. I'm just one person. I'm only GS-12. I'm not a policymaker. But that should never happen again. We know
what we need to do.
We know what we need to do, and we're not doing it right now. Everything's stopped, and this makes me so mad. This makes me so mad. Yeah. And it's funny, I just did an interview with Action News Now, and it was mainly because I'm worried about all this, the fire fuels work not being done. Mm. And people were like, if you did a good job, you wouldn't be fired. And I'm like, I did the best job. I was the rock star of the forest, if not the zone, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm happy to show you my evals, the awards I've got. Yeah. I am not one to toot my own horn. I'm someone that brings everyone else up as a servant leader. That's my job, to bring other people up. Yeah. But I kick ass. And they didn't even care. They just fired me because I'm a Schedule A disability. I had 1 month left before I could start getting more protections, and they fired me for that. Yeah. And then they lied to a judge and said that they looked at metrics, and they did not. Yeah. So, well, I hope you get your job back. We need you. I hope so too. I have started looking. I'm not going to lie, because we can't afford to live without on one income. My husband works for the state. It's hard, right? We have a house to pay for. I have student loans. I have a lot of stuff I need to pay for. And so I have to get another job. But I really want my job back, and I really want to be able to jump back in and do this work. And I may just be a partnership coordinator, but what I do affects people and affects these communities. And on top of that, I have a red card. So, this is what people are like, well, they're not firing fire folks. Yeah, they are. We're called the militia, and that may not be the best term for it, but we're a fire militia. So anytime there's a fire, we're the ones that go out, What kind of work did you do on fires? I was a driver, and then last year I was so busy trying to get all the stuff done, I didn't get to go out. Mm-hmm. But I'm also a PIO, although after this video, that may not work. PIO trainee, and also business, incident management business.
Business support.
Yeah, because that's my background is business, so. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I've been a contractor for the feds for over 20 years. It's we need to get paid. Like, people, they're letting go of people that sign our invoices when we're working on fires. Yeah, yeah. And they're letting go of the people who are qualified to do things that, it's hard to get qualifications, right? Mm-hmm. So a lot of folks are being fired that are the only ones in the region that can do something. Like a equipment time recorder or finance section chief. Even like aviation folks. Mm-hmm. Like a lot of those I've been seeing getting fired, and we all work together for this. Mm-hmm. No one works for the government for a paycheck. I'm going to tell you that right now. We all do it because we want to support our communities. We want to save our forests. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, thanks for talking with me. Yeah. Thanks for having me. It's good to see you again. Yeah, you too. Yeah. Though I wish you still did massage.